back, the Exist Better YouTube channel. I'm going to attempt to lay out this whole big thing for you today. So, the next episode of The Underbelly is probably not for a little while. It's not done yet at all. But I wanted to make this video because I saw a comment that was so baked with goodness that I couldn't resist making a whole entire video about it. So if you're not familiar with Conspirituality, it's probably a very polarizing account, I would imagine, and we're going to go into exactly why. But whether you love or hate that account, or you're somewhere in the middle, we're going to talk about why that account exists, where my theory as to where this group of people come from, and why they hate very specific people leading this certain spiritual movements right now, and why they hate probably people like me who are about to say the things that I'm going to say. So let's get started. So again, what is this, like trigger warning here? We're going to be talking about the liberal shadow here. So again, as I always say, everyone is welcome to follow this channel, conservative, liberal. A lot of them certainly don't enjoy this channel, but I know some of you are here. I know for a fact. I've talked to liberals who follow this channel. I've talked to conservatives who follow this channel. So you're completely welcome here. When we're talking about the liberal shadow or the conservative shadow, we're talking about everybody in a sense. Everyone's got these parts. This is not about a fight. The reason I know about the liberal shadow and the conservative shadow is because I've seen it, both of them, in myself. So, without further ado, let's go. In the video I did on liberal blind spots, we talked about this liberal blind spot trope of rallying around everyone as a victim, but not in a way where it actually supports them out of their victimhood, but in a way where we just go way too far, and the empathy actually turns into pity, where we are actually like, the energy isn't like, oh, let's lift you up. The energy becomes, oh my gosh, you are such a victim. It is so hopeless. Oh my God. It's like this crumbling into pity, right? It doesn't end up uplifting the victims, whatever it is that they're a victim of. It ends up kind of just having them double down on that identity. So in the comment section of this post, there is that. So the people who buy these Teal Swan products are being framed as victims of cult leaders, being taken advantage of by someone more powerful. So to be clear here, we have people exercising their free will to buy merchandise that says whatever, like this painting is for abundance, and I'll buy it and it'll help me cultivate abundance, right? So this is just straight up free will. People going on the website, making this purchase because they're interested in cultivating abundance or whatever it is that they're interested in. This account, Conspirituality, is basically saying that people are being scammed. So another big trope in liberal blind spots is trying to sort of police and control people's ethics, and essentially the only thing that is allowed to be ethical is mainstream thought. So like anything that is rooted in a research study, someone who is scientific and logical, they're allowed to sell or do anything they want to do. But anyone who is sharing some sort of alternative thought or an alternative belief system is automatically a cult leader, and they're unethical, and they're preying on people. So this is a slippery slope because, again, what are we actually doing here? We're trying to like police and control independent business. And worse than that, we're trying to police and control independent thought. So they're denying the fact that someone can have an alternative belief system and run a business based on that. They're saying that shouldn't be allowed, and I should be able to step up and stop that from happening. So again, this is the argument people give all the time, that this line of thinking, when taken far enough, will become authoritarianism. It is an attempt to suppress these teachers' right to have a different perspective. But that is a point that's very on the surface, and that's given a lot, so I don't want to spend much time there. What I want to talk about is why these people end up in this group, this conspirituality group. My theory is that these people grew up, so my theory is basically that this is a projection. I would bet money that if we did a study of everybody who follows conspirituality, and the creators especially, that we would find a bunch of people who grew up not being considered by authority figures who would not take responsibility for themselves, right? Because what are they arguing here? They're saying, okay, and they're doing this with lots of not just Teal, like lots of creators in the spiritual space who specifically preach about personal responsibility. That is key here for understanding this liberal shadow. They're mad at Kelly Brogan. They're mad at Charles Eisenstein. They're mad at Teal Swan. They're mad at anyone who is preaching like anything along the lines of, you are in control, you create your reality, you don't have to go along with with the mainstream narrative. Anyone who's saying anything like that, they're mad at them, and they're just picking them apart. They're just on the account, they're always name calling them, just like calling them derogatory names, and they feel very justified in this. But the reason this entire thing is a projection, like I said, is because these are likely people who grew up in environments where people were not taking responsibility. And so when these teachers are saying, no, you're responsible for yourself, you have free will, it's a trigger, because what they want to see is the authority figures, the teachers, especially the people making money. That's another point. The people who are making money, they want to see them taking a lot of responsibility. They want to see someone like Teal Swan writing like disclaimers in her product descriptions, like if you suffer from, trigger warning, like if you suffer from this, don't buy this, I'm not preying upon you. They want to see these people overtaking responsibility because it's a wound for them. It's a projection. It's not actually about these people. Let's flesh this theory out and see if it's actually true. So I am mostly on the side of these spiritual teachers. I think they're saying interesting things. They're doing a good job. Maybe they have some blind spots, like I'm not defending everything Teal Swan has ever done, but I think they should be allowed to speak, period. So why does someone end up like me? Well, let's go back in my history. Did I have an issue with growing up in an environment where no one would take responsibility? And now when people preach, you are in control, you create your reality, does that offend me? No. I grew up in an environment that was exactly the opposite. I grew up in an environment where people were sort of just telling me, like, just sit down, just don't do anything, we'll do it all. Like, don't don't take any sort of like empowering steps, like we're just going to do everything for you, you just sit there and look cute. And so over time, this I personally rebelled from that. I didn't like that. Something felt off about that. So as I grew up, I rebelled from that. Not everyone does, and that puts them on a different trajectory. But if you grew up like that, sort of coddled, as they say, and you grow up and you rebel from that, what do you want more than anything in this world is individuality and personal empowerment. They want to prove that they create their own reality and that they're in control and that they're not victims of circumstance, and they love to read books like Own Yourself by Kelly Brogan, and they love to listen to Charles Eisenstein talk about how you don't have to go along with mainstream thought. You know, Teal Swan telling people that you can uncover your own shadow and just do work on yourself and all this stuff, right? All this self-empowering stuff. The person who was kind of kept in a little bubble, like I was, and like tame, like petted and too tame, they grow up and they're like, F this. I want like all the personal, like give it all to me. I want to be in control of everything. I want to be, you know, and so for me, hearing a narrative like the Conspirituality narrative is like, it's like nauseating. Are you trying to tell me that if I buy a product from Teal Swan, it's because I'm a brainwashed little victim of a cult and I'm being mind controlled and I have no free will and I couldn't have possibly just be purchasing something because I like it, I think it's cool and I want to empower myself? Get out of here with that shit, right? So again, what we're talking about here is a radical difference, I think. I don't have proof of this, but a radical difference in upbringing. And if not a radical difference in upbringing, a radical difference in how that upbringing was interpreted and reacted to. So I'm just like looking at my bookshelf of all of the things I have from these spiritual teachers and alternative thought people that Conspirituality would hate me for having. Guys, I've talked about this book. This book is amazing. It's by Charles Eisenstein. And so this whole thing about these people profiting off of weak little confused victims, and Charles Eisenstein's book is available for free online. Just want to put that out there. So one more thing I wanted to mention. This idea, going back to the original post, this idea about like everything these people are selling couldn't possibly influence your life. Like Teal Swan products that are based on energetics, it's all fake, and buying a product couldn't possibly influence or impact your life. That line of thinking is the exact sort of materialist thinking that we're going to be talking about more in the next episode of The Underbelly. So this line of thinking where it's like nothing you do matters, nothing has any connection. If you buy a frequency painting from Teal Swan, it's because you're a moron. That's not going to impact your life in any way. What is that actually saying? What they're actually saying is, we believe nothing is connected. We believe if you make a purchase, it means nothing. They don't believe in building momentum and the connection between all things, and how all actions I take, those actions are whatever I say they are, right? If I buy a product, even if I'm buying it from a cult leader who wants to take advantage of me, the control is all in my hands. It's an illusion that it's not. The power is all in my hands. Yes, it is possible to be scammed. Yes, it is possible to be taken advantage of. But not if I've got my shit together. So worst case scenario, I encounter a cult leader who's selling products. If I've got my shit together and I'm in alignment with myself and I'm full of belief in myself and my own personal power, and I fully believe that, it's impossible for me to be scammed. I will buy a product from that cult leader and I will get something out of it because I said I would. You see what I'm saying? This whole thing that you're a hopeless little victim it's ultimately nonsense, and it's ultimately a childhood projection. Your own beliefs about yourself and about your reality are the first factor in everything. Everything else comes secondary. So if you want to buy a painting, for example, and you are working on generating more abundance in your life, whatever the hell you want to focus on, if you buy that painting does not have the power to change your entire life. It's the intention the person put into making the painting. If their intention is heartfelt, then that painting is a good painting. You go ahead and you buy that painting. You have that same intention. You hang it on your wall. Do you get $50 million the next day in your bank account? No. That's stupid. No one believes that. The seller of the product doesn't believe that. The buyer of the product doesn't believe that. It's an exchange of energy. It is a continuation of, I am moving toward this thing that I want. You are helping me move toward this thing that I want. I will give you money in exchange, and you give me the painting that you figured out. For some reason, you've infused it with this intention, and maybe the shapes in it are associated and symbolize abundance. That's great, and that's wonderful to play with those things. But it's not the symbols on the painting that are going to give you abundance. That would be very naive to believe that, right? It's a continuing process. If I work on abundance all year, and buying that painting is one of many steps that I take toward empowering myself toward abundance, and I practice it and I visualize it and I take action and I hang the painting and I look at the painting and it feels good, on and on and on and on. These things are all connected. I am creating momentum in my life. I am creating momentum. I am creating my life. The product that I bought from Teal Swan was the Inner Compass deck. So it's like, it helps you sort out your priorities, your values, things like that. I haven't touched this product. It's very nice. There's very cool art on it. I'm not trying to advertise here, just saying. It's very cool, interesting. There's lots of exercises you can do to like sort out your priorities and values, right? I haven't touched this in, I don't know, probably several months. I don't really do much with it. It just sits on my shelf and looks nice. But I did an exercise with it when I first bought it, where I just clarified something. Now, a few days ago, I was in a really difficult situation, like thinking about a really serious problem, and I was really worried about it and really freaked out. And I remembered the exercise that I had done with that deck. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember. That was my priority. I care about this thing. This is what I want. And then it was like, oh, okay. Well, that must be the truth. Not all this other fear nonsense that I was thinking about at the time and getting all caught up in this crazy, terrifying fear story. I was like, oh wait, no, I already figured that out with this deck months ago. I already know what I want to do about that. I already know what I actually want there. So did that product pay for itself? What was it, $20, $40, $50? It was probably no more than $50, maybe like $40. Did that product pay for itself? That's up for you to decide. I can use it again anytime I want. I can use it every night if I want. I can hang the cards on my wall every time I forget what my priorities are, and I can focus on them literally as I am doing my work if I want to go that far. I can take this $40 product and I can make it as powerful as I want it to be, because that's how fucking badass I am. Period. None of this bullshit nonsense that we're projecting from childhood about how this crazy, scary spiritual people are going to get us. They're not. If you don't like them, don't listen to them. If they trigger a wound, that's perfectly within your right to not like them. You're not obligated. You shouldn't like them. If I were someone who had that sort of upbringing, if I were these conspirituality people, I would not be focused on these people preaching self-empowerment. I would be looking at what I need to do and who I actually need to focus on, who's teaching something that will actually help me out and not constantly trigger me, and then I constantly fight against it, and then I make an entire movement out of my resentment toward my parents. That is all, folks. That is all I'm going to say. I hope you got something out of this video, and I hope that you are reminded that you are badass and can do whatever the fuck you want. Whatever you want, you can build it. It's hard, but you can probably do it. The end.